Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Youth Entrepreneurship and Makerspaces webinar. Before we get started, I just wanted to let everyone know that we'll be recording this session so that we can share this with colleagues who aren't able to join us in real time. So welcome to the MakerUSA's Youth Entrepreneurship and Makerspaces webinar. My name is Dr. Stephanie Santoso, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of the national nonprofit MakerUSA. I'm also joined today by Colin Lacey, who is a co-founder and chief innovation officer at our organization. For those who are new to MakerUSA, our mission is to partner with communities that have been most marginalized by unequal access and opportunity, and to support their goals to leverage maker education to enable community-driven innovation, entrepreneurship, and STEM career pathways. We run a national community of practice called the Learning Network, where leading institutions and organizations come together to share their work and learnings and collaborate on shared challenges related to maker education and inclusive makerspaces. MakerUSA locally recruits, embeds, and trains program managers to support the efforts of these communities. Many of the communities we work with are focused on creating opportunities for youth and students to develop an entrepreneurial mindset and the skills and experiences that enable them to be creative problem solvers, critical thinkers, and thoughtful collaborators. In this webinar, you'll have the opportunity to hear from several thought leaders developing inclusive youth entrepreneurship programming and initiatives with community stakeholders. You'll also learn more about ongoing research to better understand how makerspaces are supporting these efforts. This webinar is part of the rollout of the Maker Ecosystem Building Toolkit, a free and publicly available resource for communities and organizations that are looking to foster a sustainable ecosystem that supports inclusive maker education and maker entrepreneurs. So I just wanted to review what our agenda looks like for today's webinar. I'll share a little more about the Learning Network and the Maker Ecosystem Building Toolkit, and then we'll head straight into hearing from each of our amazing speakers today. With us, we have Taylor Poynor, who is the Director of Operations and Communications at Homegrown Pathways on the western slope of Colorado. Taylor is also a former MakerUSA program manager, and we're excited to welcome her back here. We also have Dr. Ron Williams, who is the Associate Professor and founder of the Strategic Entrepreneurship Center at Coppin State University in Baltimore, Maryland. Actually, it is the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship at Coppin State University in Baltimore, Maryland. And then we also have Rich Lehrer, who is Director of Academic Innovation and Design at the Alexander Dawson School in Las Vegas. So we'll have some time for a facilitated discussion with our speakers after they share more about their work, and then we'll open it up to questions from webinar participants. If you have questions or comments that come up throughout the session, please feel free to go ahead and share those in the Q&A box as those come up, and we'll either address them in real time or we'll keep them for the Q&A portion. And Colin will be monitoring this area for any questions and comments. So as I mentioned earlier, the MakerUSA Ecosystem Building Toolkit is a free and publicly available resource for communities and organizations that are looking to foster a sustainable ecosystem that supports inclusive maker education and maker entrepreneurs. The toolkit will contain case studies, best practices, relevant research, and a set of fundraising and communication tools designed to support leaders that are looking to grow, scale, and sustain programs, models, makerspaces, and develop policies that enable members of their communities to leverage these resources in ways that foster hands-on STEM and STEAM education, entrepreneurship, local manufacturing, and economic innovation. We're releasing the first 6 case studies this month, and you can find those on our website at the URL here, makerusa.org/toolkit. And then we'll also drop the link to the toolkit page in the chat box as well. And so these first 6 case studies were developed and authored by members of our Learning Network, and we'll be adding additional resources over the next few months, including a relevant research section, which will be released next. So if you're interested in developing a case study or contributing a different type of resource to the toolkit, feel free to reach out to me directly at stephanie@makerusa.org. And then without further ado, I'll go ahead and invite Taylor to share more about herself and the work she's been leading with the Spark Lab Pre-Accelerator program. And Taylor, let me just stop sharing so you can share.
Perfect. Thank you, Steph.
Mhm.
Okay, let me get this
Okay, there you go.
sent. Perfect. Can you all see my screen? Perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Poynor. I'm Director of Operations and Communications, and thanks for the lovely introduction, Steph. Our organization is called Homegrown Pathways. Our mission is to drive economic mobility by connecting rural youth and young adults to quality career and entrepreneurial pathways within their home region. I am super excited to share more about our pilot program called Spark Lab that we just launched this past winter. And so to give some context and background around the development of this program, we teamed up with Startup Colorado, who is the state's leading provider of support and financial resources for rural entrepreneurs in Colorado. They've been delivering a pre-accelerator model, the Idea Factory, to entrepreneurs across the state. And this is a model that's more aligned with adult entrepreneurs and folks who have an existing business model. They recognized there was a strong interest from young people in participating. So we teamed up with them and Startup Colorado and our curriculum designer to further refine the Idea Factory Pre-Accelerator to a youth-specific audience, and actually wound up creating essentially a whole new program called Spark Lab. So Spark Lab is a free pre-accelerator program designed for young entrepreneurs ages 14 to 21 with either an active business or an early business concept. And the model focuses on refining their business concepts, identifying an ask, and then preparing that ask for a 3-minute pitch for the culminating pitch event. And in that event, we awarded them all with seed funding. So it's implemented over the course of 6 weeks with approximately 12 to 15 hours of engagement time, depending on the participant. And one of our main goals was to connect those young entrepreneurs to other regional resources as well as each other to help bolster a young entrepreneur ecosystem within our rural communities. In recognition of their own time and investment and wanting to further empower their ideas, we provided them each with stipends, $200 Visa gift cards for completing the program, mileage reimbursement, we covered a large geographical span, and then welcome and launch packages that consisted of foundational books on leadership and entrepreneurship. And so I'll start with an overview of what our design for the program looked like. And then on the next slide, I'll touch on what our actual pilot cohort looked like. So Spark Lab is designed for cohorts to be made of 10 to 15 participants. We hold one weekly meetup for an hour and 15 minutes with one weekly virtual optional office hour. And then we included an accompanying participant guide, which a couple of the pages are shown on your screen. And then we also offered individual mentorship meetings. It's a 6-week program, like I said earlier, and week 1 really touches on entrepreneurial mindset, but really the focus dives into building trust and community within the cohort. Week 2 is a participant favorite where we bring in rural entrepreneurs from our area, broke up our participants into small groups, and then had them engage in speed networking with those entrepreneurs. And they discussed everything from what it's like to be an entrepreneurial in our rural communities, and an entrepreneurial mindset and growth. We also gave real world examples by bringing in these folks and helped broaden their connections and introduce them to networking. Week 3 focuses on breaking out the different elements of their pitch and really diving into the heart of their business idea. And then in week 4, we kick off, we continue with the pitch breakout activity, but we kick off with local bank and venture capital representatives by bringing them in and discussing what it is they do and how young people can plug into the financial opportunities that they provide, if not now, later on in their entrepreneurial careers. The pre-work leading into week 5 is all about having their draft pitch ready to present to their peers. And so week 5 is centered completely around near peer feedback and refining their pitch. And I want to note that a lot of pre-work in Spark Lab was focused on durable skills development and entrepreneurial mindset. And so this included things like how to present, how to network, how to recover from failure, how to communicate. And you could really see them kind of synthesizing that information in real time as they went to give their peers feedback as they presented. And then, of course, week 6 is our final pitch event. And so diving into who was in our pilot cohort. So this took place over the winter 2024 to 25. We had wide interest from across the region. There's a little map in the corner of your screen that shows the rectangle of Colorado and kind of blows up our larger geographical area and footprint for where these participants came from. So we had 19 applicants that applied and 12 that actually wound up enrolling. And their ages ranged from 15 to 19. We had a mix of out of school, public school, homeschool, and college students. And then 5 already had operating businesses, and they all came from 6 different towns, 4 different counties. We had a virtual option and an in-person option. So they could either come to some or stay home for some, or stay home entirely if they preferred or if they needed to. As you can see, it was a large expanse. So offering that opportunity was really important to us. And then I want to note that we hosted this all at a co-working space, kind of central to that map there. And the co-working space was really a unique opportunity to get young people out of a classroom setting and into a more entrepreneurial space. And this is where I really think Makerspaces could really thrive in terms of implementing program like this. It takes kids out of the classroom into a more hands-on entrepreneurial environment. And that was something that we got feedback on as being really important to the young people that were participating. And so our Spark Lab pilot pitch event, we awarded over $10,000 in funding directly to these 12 entrepreneurs. Our underlying thesis at Homegrown Pathways is that as a country, we do not suffer from a lack of good ideas. Rather, a challenge is a deficit of empowered ideas. And for those ideas to be empowered, they need to be identified, encouraged, and invested in. And so it was really important to us to spend a lot of time focusing on this fundraising portion for the pitch event. We had over 60 folks in attendance: parents, entrepreneurs, educators, superintendents, chamber leaders, bank presidents, mayors, and venture capital representatives. And packing that audience full of all of these amazing community leaders really helped lend to this thesis of empowering young people, uplifting their ideas, helping them feel heard, and showing them that these communities leaders are not only willing, but excited to sit down, listen, and hear what they have to say. We got a lot of praise from audience and teachers and parents, and the whole event kind of ran like a graduation ceremony. It was very heartwarming. Our CEO gave a wonderful speech. I saw parents in tears. I was in tears, and it was all a very powerful moment. And I just want to highlight some of our Spark Lab innovators, and I know I'm running short on time, so I just want to quickly touch on Monse, who is the owner of Sweet Creations. So Monse is a senior in high school, a single mom, and the owner of Sweet Creations. She creates beautiful chocolate-covered strawberry designs for events like birthdays, quinces, weddings, and the like. She founded this business because she loves being creative, but also as a means to support her young son on a schedule that also works for her. As a result of Spark Lab, Sweet Creations is now an LLC, and she is working with her school to sell chocolate-covered strawberries in the school. And then just some highlights on our pre and post survey outcomes. So participants took a survey before even stepping foot into Spark Lab. And notably, 100% of our innovators shared that they would recommend Spark Lab to a friend and that Spark Lab advanced their business. We received an average rating of 9.3 on a scale of 1 to 10. And then just a quote that we pulled from one of our innovators who emailed us after the pitch event. It says, "We've learned so much and met so many great people. I can say without a doubt, I will take everything I've learned here and utilize it in my entrepreneurial life. This program that you all have created is truly amazing." And then another quick hit on some pre and post survey outcomes. 100% of them shared that they are more likely to take action on a future business idea as a result of Spark Lab. And that really comes back to making sure they feel empowered and the confidence to act on their ideas. And that not only enriches their opportunities, but our rural regions as well. And then the rest are just some quick points. And I'll note that so my favorite shift was the "I have peers who can support me with starting a business." That went from disagree to strongly agree. And as I shared earlier, building a youth entrepreneurial ecosystem is one of the main focuses of Spark Lab. And a big part of that is just connecting them to each other. So rural kids can have access to other rural kids. And yeah, so that's all I have for you guys today. I don't want to take up any more time. So sorry for running over, but excited to dive in and share any more around any questions you may have.
Thanks so much for sharing, Taylor. I'd like to go ahead and invite Dr. Ron Williams to share more about his longstanding work at the intersection of Makerspaces, entrepreneurship, and innovation.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Stephanie. I really want to, as I queue up my slides here, thank Stephanie and Colin for the opportunity to share information with you this afternoon. Again, I am Ron Williams, and I am an academic. I am at Coppin State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and I've been in higher ed for about 40 years, but I've been at this one institution for the past 29 years, and I've served in a multiple number of seats, everything from, and we're housed in the business school, our center. I've been everything from the dean of the business school to classroom instructor. So I've been there quite a while, stayed long enough to serve in a number of seats. But in 2021, we formally launched the Center for Strategic Entrepreneurship, and we're fortunate to establish a relationship with the Anna E. Casey Foundation around some work that we were very interested in doing. And Excel, this is the Excel project. The Excel project, Excel is an acronym for Excellence in Entrepreneurial Learning. And it was really a follow-up to a study that Casey had conducted in 2017 that's called the Reshaping Workforce Development in Baltimore, Ensuring Community Voice and Expertise uh, Guide Us. And in that report, which is available on the Casey website, the youth of Baltimore, because the purpose behind the work that they were doing was to elevate youth voices primarily. The youth of Baltimore uh, told us several things, but one that really resonated with us was that they crave entrepreneurship and resources to build businesses that are free of discrimination and benefit their communities. So that came directly from the youth of Baltimore City. So we designed a study. We started the design in 2022 and launched the study in January of 23. But this was a landscape analysis of the instructional programs, the youth and emerging adult instructional programs in Baltimore City around entrepreneurship. So the age range was from 16 to 29, which is quite a range, but it also mirrored the 2017 Annie E. Casey report. And what really kind of set this study about, well, we could not find a landscape analysis of the instructional programs in Baltimore City that had been conducted before. But it's a few things that set this study apart was that we really focused on learning competencies, learning how to learn, as opposed to um, helping to make people successful entrepreneurs. Because one thing we knew was that we could not guarantee success. People define success differently, And we did not want to frustrate the youth any further by suggesting to them that we could make them successful entrepreneurs. But what we did guarantee was that we will prepare you for opportunity. And preparing them for opportunity means that we will help them be competent learners, help them learn how to learn. So we did this landscape analysis. One of the things we also wanted to accomplish was to really take a look at how this research is done and make some suggestions about best practices around youth entrepreneurship research and help the funders. The funders were and have been investing a lot into youth entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship in general. But I'm not really sure that many of them, and based on some of their feedback, have a real handle on their return on investment. So we also wanted to help them in that way. We looked at trauma-informed approaches, whether those were being used in youth entrepreneurship instruction. And all of our research is aimed at influencing public policy. This is applied research. It's not to sit on a shelf somewhere or just for publication in a journal, but it is really to inform policy and develop new strategies around engaging youth. So there were 7 questions that we built the study around, and you see the areas that we addressed. And it was a qualitative study, really, the what and the how of how youth entrepreneurship instruction was happening in Baltimore City. And I won't hit all of the findings because that would take much more time than I had. I'm going to try to condense 3 years into 8 minutes, so I'm already challenged. But we looked at structure, partnerships, methods, effectiveness measures, challenges, uh, trauma-informed approaches, and beyond the launch. Was there engagement beyond the launch of a youth business that would facilitate their taking advantage of the opportunity? The gist of what we found was that it was all over the place, all over the place. There were so many different structures, so many different partnership networks, and um, it really emphasized or highlighted the fact that we needed to begin to um, describe how these instructional services were being delivered so that we would have a baseline for improving how we do it. For example, the partnerships, many of them organically developed around some need or deficit that some of the uh, organizations had in the ecosystem. There were before school program, I mean, yeah, after school programs, school year-round programs. There were summer programs. There were programs that were curriculum-based. Some of them were industry-based. So you can imagine, you began to see how there was really no rhyme or reason how these were being delivered. Trauma-informed approaches. We identified at least 10 different approaches to trauma, whether you use this that we're delivering the instructions, we're making an effort to address some needs that they saw. So the findings were far and wide. They were very varied. And just to give you a context of how this has evolved over the past 3 years. So this was a 2-year study. There were 35 organizations involved in the study in Baltimore. OpenWorks, which is the large makerspace in Baltimore, was actually part of the study as well from a makerspace perspective. But that was from the summer of 22 until the summer of 24. There was a release event July 1 of 2024, and Casey was gracious enough to also support some post-release activity. So there were a number of community conversation events that happened from July 1 to the end of the calendar year in 2024. There was a release report. There was a youth summit that was held in Baltimore. We used that to collect some additional data. There was a Baltimore Development Corporation Baltimore Together event where we presented some of our findings and used that opportunity to collect additional data. Then we had two community conversations, one on the east side of Baltimore, west side of Baltimore. We had forums with elected officials and system influencers with the Maryland Philanthropy Network, and also some capital access and financial institutions. So you can see that have built on the work, the 2-year study that was initially conducted with some additional findings. What's happening right now, based on some of the findings actually from the forums, the generally from the elected officials and the philanthropy network, we realized that the population, there's really not a handle on the youth entrepreneurship population, and what's being offered is not addressing a reality. Most entrepreneurs do not go into 100% entrepreneurship right away. Many of them are working and have a side hustle of some kind or some alternative stream of revenue. That is not uncommon these days, but much of the instruction that's being delivered, or what's being delivered, at least in Baltimore, was instructing them as if they were going to be 100% entrepreneurs on day one. Our educational efforts and systems have to begin to address the continuum from 100% entrepreneur to 100% W-2 worker and every scenario that exists in between. That's what we're working toward now, because and I'm coming to the end, following the forums that ended in 2024, we're now working with a data consultant to build out Excel 2.0, which we will build a data framework that will help us conduct some assessment along the new reality that entrepreneurs are stepping into. We developed 8 competencies that we believe transcend both workforce development and entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is not new, but these 8 are the learning competencies that we're going to use to build out our framework that will help us produce, hopefully, or facilitate the development of more competent learners. Whether you're looking at the 21st century goals in education, or whether you're looking at these types of competencies that we're developed, they are along the same lines. Just to make a point about the role of makerspaces in this, our study that we did initially in 2017, turning makerspaces into greater spaces, that's available on our website, greaterspacesandplaces.com. This economic impact of OpenWorks in Baltimore showed that the greatest impact, the greatest economic impact that makerspace was having at that time was in the education sector. So we don't think that has changed. In fact, that has probably grown or accelerated, or the role that makerspaces will play over the next decades will grow in the education sector as we seek to be more hands-on and facilitate that journey that young entrepreneurs are having into that space. So I think I've exhausted my time. Hopefully I made it within the 8 minutes. But thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
Thanks so much, Ron. And I was just sort of connecting the dots between the work that Taylor shared about through Spark Lab, even that example with Monse, as a high school student, like young mother, like, simultaneously starting her business is really what, Ron, you were speaking to, that like that entrepreneurship exists on this spectrum, right? And like, if a community can work together as an ecosystem to support youth where they are in that spectrum, wherever they're most interested in is a best fit for them, that's ideal. So really excited to just continue to stay in touch with you, Ron, on how sort of 2.0 is shaping up over the next year, and how those the development of those competencies and kind of integration of that into the partners that you're working with, what that looks like. It'll be really exciting to see, and certainly an example for other cities and communities across the country too. Well, I want to turn to Rich, who I think, which is really exciting. It's sort of, we have a couple of different really unique approaches supporting youth entrepreneurship through making and makerspaces. And Rich, I feel like you really across the panel provide that expertise looking at what this could look like in classroom settings and on campuses. And so wanted to turn it over to you to share more about the work you're leading at Dawson and through the Dawson Design Company.
Great. Thanks so much, Steph. It's great to be asked to speak here. Thanks, Taylor and Ron, for such an awesome presentation. I really appreciate your perspectives. So yeah, my presentation is a little bit different. I'm going to talk a little bit about how it is possible to bring an entrepreneurship mindset into a formal classroom setting. As Steph mentioned early in the process, I'm the Director of Academic Innovation and Design at a early childhood to 8th grade independent school in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've included some contact information if there are any educators or anybody out there that wants to see how to move some of this work into a formal classroom setting. Happy to speak about that. My background is primarily in the realm of project-based learning and design technology, and really my focus or my obsession for the last 15 to 20 years has been just how do we use classroom experiences to create change makers? How can kids learn to become agents of positive change through classroom experiences, and particularly through authentic learning experiences? Recently, I've been sort of coalescing a bunch of this work into something we call client-based learning, which is just students working with people both in their school community, but also outside of the school community, and having those people that they work with serve as clients for the work of kids. And you can see the link there to some of the work that we've been doing there. This manifests itself in a bunch of different ways at our school, but I wanted to focus on two. I teach two classes. I'm an administrator at the school, but I also teach two classes. One is called Tech for Good, and essentially this is an engineering class that focuses on the community sharing problems through something we call the problem bank, and then our students draw the problems out of the problem bank and essentially use our design lab / makerspace to solve the problems. But what I really wanted to talk about today was a class that we started 2 years ago called the Dawson Design Company, and that will fold nicely into the work that Taylor and Ron were talking about, hopefully. So we created 2 years ago, we created a design lab here at our school. We sort of had a proof of concept of how kids' maker experiences could allow them to actually have impact in their community. And so we decided that we would create a purpose-built space. And with the launch of that space, we also launched this class called the Dawson Design Company. So it's a 7th and 8th grade elective. We're teaching students design technology. We're weaving in entrepreneurship and also giving them a chance to explore service and philanthropy within their community. We run the class like a business. The students learn the essence of design, digital design and fabrication. Then they look for markets for the products that they can create. They learn how to advertise. They go ahead and then actually sell and deal with the finances of the business. And then every bit of money that is raised goes to support worthwhile causes that are selected by the students at the start of the semester. The photo that you're seeing there are students who have taken the class multiple times. Students can take the class more than one semester. We have students who've taken it 4 semesters, and just gives them a chance to just deepen their understanding of the work we're doing, but also to become leaders within the class as well. I mentioned that we started this work with the transformation of a classroom that we had at the school. We turned it into just an amazing makerspace here that is actually behind me here. We filled it with some amazing equipment. So we have 3D printers and laser cutters, and we have a vinyl sticker and t-shirt maker, and we have vinyl cutters. We have sewing machines, and we have CNC mills as well. And essentially what students are doing is they are learning how to become independent users of all the equipment, and then they use it to create designs that they feel there might be a market for within our community and outside of our community. So I thought I would just show you some examples of some of our student work just to kind of give a better sense of what our kids are actually making. So we do a lot of work with laser cutting and making high quality work. And this sort of speaks to the power of this generation of maker technology to allow kids to make highly professional looking and actually professional designs. And so you can see some of that our kids have made there. We do a lot of sticker making and we do a lot of t-shirt making as well. We do sort of universal designs, but we also do some customized designs for people in our community as well. We allow the kids to take the work in some really interesting ways. Recently, we've been exploring just what does it take to start to cast metal in our design lab. So kids are designing using Blender, and then we're creating molds, and then we're melting down aluminum cans, and I do all the melting and pouring of molten metal. But our kids certainly are involved in the designing and the marketing and the selling of the finishing of all the work. Um, so over the last 2 years, within our community, selling all student created designs, we've raised over $11,000. What we're really learning is that for students to have this authentic endpoint for the work that they're doing just leads to really high levels of engagement and deep learning. Kids care deeply about the work they're doing. They understand that what we do matters in this class. And we also really try to emphasize student voice and choice in the work that we do. So students own the class. They make decisions on the designs, on what we're going to fabricate. They find the markets. They run the equipment independently under my guidance. They determine new directions for the work that we're doing. And really what we're just trying to do is help students see that there's a place in formal schooling for them to make a difference in the lives of others. Um, I have stressed all the amazing tools and things we have, but this work is possible to start small. In fact, we started this work very small on a small scale with even just a small digital fabrication machine like a vinyl cutter for $100 to $200. Students can start a little business and then it can actually meet the needs of a community making small vinyl decals. So we've raised a lot of money, but I wanted to highlight just one of the partners that we've been working with recently for the last year or so. The Tyler Robinson Foundation was founded by local Las Vegas heroes, the Imagine Dragons. They created a foundation to support families that have been impacted by pediatric cancer. And so we've connected with them. We started very modestly, just making donations to them, and we've allowed that to really grow into a reciprocal relationship. So we have a partnership with them. We've raised over $6,000 for them, but more importantly, we've now connected our kids to families and kids that are being helped by the Tyler Robinson Foundation. In addition to helping our kids learn more about the issues surrounding pediatric cancer, we have also invited kids that have been benefited from the work of the Tyler Robinson Foundation, and they come to our design space to work with our kids to do designing. And just over the last few years, we've really become committed to helping other schools. I personally feel every school should have a entrepreneurship program and a design program that helps meet the needs of people outside of the school. Recently, we won an awesome award from the Association of Tech Leaders of Independent Schools, just recognizing the work we're doing. And it just helped put our work a little bit more on a national stage to just help schools figure out like how can you take a pretty traditional education system and have a single person or a single educator start to bring this impact work, but also this entrepreneurship work into the school. So yeah, I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions that people have.
Thanks so much, Rich. Really exciting to also see sort of the students themselves being recognized for the work they're doing in the community, and such an important part of the sort of community-based approach to learning that you're leading there. Let me go ahead and just have everyone stop sharing their screen so that we can all see each other. Let's see. Let's see. I think that looks right. Okay. Well, right now I thought it might be nice to have just a more a little bit of time for us to have kind of a facilitated conversation. And as part of that, I just wanted to see too if any of the speakers had questions for each other, knowing that there's so much great overlap with the work that you all are doing, but you're taking different approaches. So Taylor, Ron, Rich, if there were questions that you had that came up about each other's work, feel free to share more because I think that's a great way to kind of kick things off too for our discussion.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
had
know
a
if I have a, I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead,
Go
Rich.
ahead, Ron. No, 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 you take it away.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a question, but definitely a comment. Um, Taylor's work in Colorado in a rural area. One of the things that we've been able to do, I grew up in a rural area, so I've been able to reach back to West Virginia and some of the work that they're doing there in Bluefield, West Virginia in particular, because the problems that drive the necessity for making and youth entrepreneurship and local production and all of that community are the same.
Mhm.
Going back and forth between Baltimore and Southern West Virginia, I see the same issues, um, social issues, economic issues, and makerspaces or youth entrepreneurship are just a couple of ways to bridge those gaps and to work together. So I did want to make that point as I was listening to the work in Colorado to
Yeah.
make sure that it was highlighted.
Well, thank you so much, Ron. That's really helpful. As one of the main challenges I think we were seeking to address too was kind of a transportation challenge, which of course hits rural areas hard, but I mean that's across the board too, right? So definitely kind of top of mind in terms of how can we, if this model were to be applied in a more urban area, it's helpful for us to know those kind of similarities. So thank you so much for pointing that out, Ron. I really appreciate that.
Actually, Taylor, I was just gonna you may have touched on this, but can you talk a little bit about how do students and kids and young people find their way to your program?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, this was a pilot program, and so we kind of left the application pretty broad in order to see where the interest was and where we should kind of fine tune the curriculum towards. We worked with a lot of nonprofits in our areas, community conveners, and youth organizations in order to spread the message. Also, school districts. We're very well connected with our local schools. They were able to share flyers, and so folks were able to apply via mostly just word of mouth and flyer distribution. The power of a flyer in a rural community posted on the local like taco shop board or whatever is pretty powerful. And so we distributed flyers, and we just wanted to see like how much interest there would be overall. And we were pretty surprised by the 20 applicants across the region too. And that really helped us kind of narrow in on where we would locate the in-person space, but then really emphasize the point to us around making sure we created a virtual option to make it as accessible as possible for everyone to get involved. Yeah. And then Ron, I actually had a question for you. Around your entrepreneurship bubble there, I see all these really great skills that like we actually are trying to develop within the Spark Lab curriculum as well around creative thinking, relationship. I see change resilience here. How did you all determine those specific focus areas for your 2.0?
Well, some of them emerged as we were collecting data in 1.0. 1.0 and then the post release forums and community forums. Uh, the 35 organizations you had large, such as Junior Achievement and Baltimore City Public Schools and Makerspaces. Then there were a number of smaller nonprofit organizations that just, deliver after school programming or have a contract with the school. So that's where those emerged. And then after the fact, we did look at other models like the 21st century goals for education, and saw the alignment with other models. So we chose those to explore as we build out this data framework and assessment framework in Excel 2.0. So Excel 2.0 will be sort of a demonstration project where we will have probably a large organization, medium-sized organization, and a smaller organization, but we will collect data around these assessment data points.
Very helpful, and really looking forward to that, and also looking forward to diving into the information you shared today. Thank you so much, Ron.
Thanks, Taylor. And then, one question for all of you that came up for me on my end was just, the work that you're doing at this intersection of youth entrepreneurship and making is very community driven and requires engagement from a variety of different kinds of stakeholders and partners in the community. I was sort of curious moving forward if there were specific stakeholders or partners within your communities that you're working in that you feel are going to be extra critical in kind of the next phase of the work that you're leading moving forward. Yeah, I'll leave it at that and see if folks want to weigh in.
I'm happy to jump in, but I also don't want to take okay, perfect. Well, so from our end, I mentioned that we had a lot of community leaders present at the pitch event, and that included educators as well. So superintendents and educators. And some of the feedback we got was a strong interest in incorporating this into the regular school day, bringing in some out of school entrepreneurs into the classroom to really help elevate this kind of program delivery. So for us, some big stakeholders have been our local school districts, our local educators, and then beyond that too, I mean, it's our local entrepreneurs, bringing them in and really trying to bridge this gap between youth and actually getting to meet the faces behind the businesses they see every day. And so it's been really cool to be able to bring in industry, financial institutions, entrepreneurial supporting organizations like chambers of commerce, regional economic development folks, as well as our community leaders who actively support businesses as well. I mentioned we had the mayor of one of our small towns here come and attend as well. And those relationships with those stakeholders have been really essential in making Spark Lab what it is, and really feeding into this idea of empowering young people and helping them see that there's a whole region and community behind them, wanting to hear what they have to say and what they care deeply about.
Thanks for sharing, Taylor. That's super helpful.
From our perspective too, as an higher ed institution, we're always looking for models to kind of follow. So ours is the Stanford model. So the three buckets, corporate, public, and private, but also adding community into that. So as long as we have representation from those four buckets, we are okay. But it has been everybody from, as Taylor said, the mayor's office, our legislative district, the senator from our state legislative district, all the way up to the federal level, have aligned on the public or the governmental side. And again, I mentioned Baltimore City Public Schools, Open Works. There's an organization for for-profit organization in Baltimore that we worked with closely, Early Charm Ventures, mentioned the Chamber of Commerce and others. So yeah, those are some of ours.
Yeah, I thought I would just mention our situation is different because we're a school entity under ourselves. But when I first started doing this sort of authentic design work 15 years ago, it was tough to get buy-in from administrators and parents, because at that point the whole idea of maker education was not really super well understood. And what became really important was just proof of concept in our case, that the more we could prove that the experiences our kids were having were great experiences and were academic experiences that were going to help them thrive in the future. We were then able to convince parents and administrators that this is work that has a lot of value. And now as an administrator myself, I see the value in try to lead other people that are trying to do this work within our school, but also inspire other schools to do that too.
Thanks for weighing in, Rich. And I know we've got just under 10 minutes left in our webinar today, so I wanted to transition us to Q&A from participants. For those who have joined us, please feel free to add any questions you might have to the Q&A box, but also if you prefer to verbalize your question, you can raise your hand, and I'm happy to unmute you if you prefer. And Colin, feel free to also unmute yourself as well. I know that you're kind of moderating this section of the webinar.
Sounds great, Steph. And there's a couple great questions that are, first off, love this discussion in general. And I'm just gonna kind of moderate some of the questions that have popped up. I've been keeping track here. So one that just came up, and this would be for Ron in particular, but Ron, can you share more about the Stanford model specifically, and maybe where folks might be able to find more information on that?
Yeah, if you just Google Stanford and triple helix, HELIX, the model should come up. But it's been modified to be the quadruple helix by, I'm not sure whether it was Stanford or someone who was building on their work, but the fourth pillar is community. So there's public, private, academic, and community. Those four stakeholder groups make up the quadruple helix model.
Thank you, Ron. And another question we have, and I think this would apply to all three participants, but it's around, can you share more about how to balance the challenges of entrepreneurship with inspiration for young entrepreneurs? How can you inspire students around the opportunity of entrepreneurial pathways without setting expectations that the pursuit of an entrepreneurial endeavor will lead to financial success? And I think, Ron, this was something you touched on a little bit as well. But if there's thoughts around that, and I know that approach will vary whether you're working at the middle school level or at the college or high school level, but love for panelists to kind of share around how they are framing the opportunities, the challenges, and I think that kind of bleeds into that framing of entrepreneurship as a continuum, which I think is a powerful one.
I'll make one quick comment and then I'll defer to the other panelists. But it's part of we have a different research agenda that deals with relational competencies, because everything begins with relationships, particularly with young people. And relationships will really release their learning. And we believe that that's more in the affective domain than the cognitive or the psychomotor domain. But if you work and assess the development of those relationships, you'll be able to sustain your engagement.
I'm happy to jump into, unless Rich, you want to go first. Okay, perfect. So I think a really key part of Spark Lab is trying to ingrain the entrepreneurial mindset within the entire program. And a big piece of that was bringing in real entrepreneurs who have had careers simultaneously as they were building their own business. As you mentioned, Ron, started with a side hustle maybe, and then turned into a full business, to really kind of help frame expectations and frame what different journeys look like too. For some folks, it really was they started a business and it was great. But for other folks, it maybe took a couple iterations. And I think that kind of framing was something really key to the entire model of Spark Lab, and something we're looking to further develop actually in Spark Lab 2.0 is the idea of entrepreneurship as well within, even if you don't go into an entrepreneurial pathway within your organization. How can you bring innovation? How can you act entrepreneurially within your life in general? So that's something definitely top of mind for us at Homegrown Pathways as well.
Yeah, and again, our circumstances are a little bit different, but one thing that we are really trying to do is we emphasize the service and philanthropy part of our entrepreneurship programming. And what we're thinking is by helping students develop empathy and understanding of others, and it's sort of back to what both of the other speakers spoke about relationships, just by knowing others than we know ourselves. And so we are really trying to get, in our situation, kind of counter some of the narratives about tech usage being very isolating and siloing. And what we're trying to do is have our kids see technology as a vehicle for empathy and for understanding and for relationships. And our premise is that if students develop some of those skills through working with and helping others, that then they will see the value of it, and then they can apply those skills in all sorts of different ways, including like more kind of individual entrepreneurship once they graduate from our programs.
Love that, Rich. I want to, Steph, try and squeeze in one more question that we have. I know there's just 2 minutes left, but there's another one in here that I think is really interesting, Ron, on financial capital. So, what are examples you are seeing of how youth entrepreneurs are able to access, or young entrepreneurs are able to access capital and other sources of financial support? And/or do you have ideas for how financial capital could be better deployed to young entrepreneurs?
That's a real challenge, of course, everybody knows, because you young people are very high risk if you're going to uh, provide for them. I think we have to be very, and I'll be brief, we have to be very innovative in our models. And I'm not even sure that we're there yet. Some of the youth programs that I see are wrestling with how to do that. I do think that there are solutions, but I don't think that we found any one that we can hold up as a way to bridge that gap yet.
That's great. And with that, I wanted to let me go ahead and just share one last slide here, which has a set of resources as we wrap up. Hopefully everyone can see that. But I'd like to just again thank our speakers for joining us today and just sharing their insights and work around youth entrepreneurship and makerspaces. This is just a list of a few of the resources related to what we covered in today's webinar. We'll also plan on sharing the recording of the webinar on the MakerUSA site in the coming weeks as part of the ecosystem building toolkit. Thank you again for joining, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Colin.
Everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steph.
Thanks, Rich.
We'll talk soon.